Hello everyone, this is Indu Sharma and I will be taking the session on integrated change control today. Okay, for next couple of minutes we are going to talk about the process integrated change control. This is a process of monitoring and control knowledge and the knowledge area is integration management. So our agenda for today's webinar is why we need integrated change control and what are the change requests, what is change request, and what can be the different sources for change request. And if in a project, as a project manager, if we receive any change request, what should be the flow of it? What is change management? What is configuration management? And how these two are related or different? Why we need a process, a full process to manage changes? Because like whenever we talk about project management, everybody says that as a project manager, this is the responsibility of the project manager to avoid changes. But the truth is that we cannot avoid changes. It's not true that the changes are bad. Changes are not bad. It all depends what kind of change we are going to do in our project. So in this process of integrated change control, what we do actually is we review all the change requests which we receive in our projects. We do the impact analysis, and depending on the impact analysis, that our change control board or the project manager, whosoever is the responsible group or person for approving or rejection of change request, approve, reject, or postpone the change request. Then it's not that once approved, then we just have to, implement those changes in our project. We have to manage those changes as well. We have to monitor and control those changes as well. And then not only deliverables, we have to in fact implement the changes. When we say manage the changes, that means we have to implement the changes. We have to reflect changes related to that change request in all of our project documents and all the affected artifacts of my project. And this change management process helps in reduction of the risk for my project so that when we say the impact analysis, that means we are going to see that what all will be impacted for this change request, and we are going to change everything, we are going to update everything, all the artifacts as well deliverables who will be getting impacted by this. So in this way we are actually reduce our project risk. Now let's take an example that you are a project manager of the software development project or any project in fact, and you get a change request from your client. Or from okay, let's not talk about example. Let's take another one. You're a project manager and you get a change request from your team member. Your team member comes to you and says that okay, see, I have found out a new way to implement a specific code in the project. Now this is not the way that is that is documented in your project document. So if your team member is suggesting something, that doesn't mean that you are just going to change it that straight way. No, it's not like that. We have to see, is it a necessary change, or first we analyze that is it going to benefit our project. Then if we see that yes, this can be a beneficial one, we can go for our impact analysis for the change on other project constraint. When we say other project constraint, that means if we are going to implement this change, what all other project areas will be impacted. What is the impact of schedule? What can be the impact of costing? What can be the impact of quality? Other project constraint, we are going to see the impact analysis of the proposed change. And then depending on the kind of change it is, with the impact analysis, we will submit the change to our change control board. We'll talk change control board in the later slides as well. In change control board, it's the responsibility of change control board to analyze it and see how good this change would be, how beneficial this change would be for our project. And depending on the analysis done by them, the change request can be either rejected, accepted, or it may be postponed. That for a while we are not going to do it, we'll do it later on. Depending on the schedule, depending on the tight schedule your project running in, depending on the cost constraint, there are a number of factors that can affect the implementation of that change request or any change at that moment of time. Now, when we say any kind of change request, that there are various sources of a change request. Now, whenever we receive any change request in our project, we are supposed to log that change request. Either we are going to implement in our project or we are not going to implement in our project. But definitely we need to log it somewhere. And in the later stages, after the CCB review and everything, we are going to update the status as well for that for the specific change request, that we have actually done it, or we have rejected it, or we have postponed it. Now, change control board. When we say change control board, it's a group of people having expertise and experience in a specific domain or a project. They are the ones, or they are the ones who are responsible for reviewing and analyzing the proposed change requests. Now, in some projects, it's not that every change request is going to be presented in going to be present in front of change control board. It all depends on the kind of change the person is proposing, or the customer is proposing, or whosoever the stakeholder is proposing. Maybe the change is not so big to be taken in the front of change control board. Even the team lead or the project manager also have the authority to approve or reject a certain level of change request. It all depends what kind of change it is. Now, the whole process that what level of changes are going to be approved by team lead, or what level of changes are going to be approved by project manager, or what level of change are going to we are going to present in change control board. Everything is defined in or documented in our change management plan. We are going to talk about the document in later slides as well. Change management plan is the document where we actually document the roles and responsibility of change control board, and who all are included in my change control board for my project. And as a manager, what kind of change requests I'm going to present in front of change control board. And change control board is the one who are going to approve, reject, or postpone my change request. Okay, now we know what is change request. Yeah, they can be. I told you there can be n number of sources for change request. So what can be flow for? What is the flow for a change request? Now, someone proposes a change for you. Change in your project, and it may be like even you can as a project manager, you have identified a change. For example, for this change requests can be change requests maybe that arise from a preventive action in your project, or a corrective action, like you have your project have encountered n number of defects of similar kind, and now you want to do some changes in your projects to prevent those defects in future. Even that can be taken as a change request, or after an audit, your quality department has proposed some corrective actions or preventive actions. You will take it as change request in your project, or you want to replace one of your team members because of any reason, because he is not, as per you, he is not capable enough to handle the project technicalities, or he is not experienced, then even that is a change request. When we talk about change request, it's not only the scope change, what generally people think of. Change request can be anything. It can be a preventive action, it can be arise from a preventive action or corrective action, or from a defect repair, or from any stakeholder. Your sponsor suggests you something to make your project, to manage a project in a better way. Even that is a change request. Your identification of risk process can also give you some change requests. So there are n number of sources for change requests. So whenever you receive any change request, first thing should be that we have to log that change, because for every change, either it's approved, rejected, or whatever, we should have a record of it, that it has been, we have received, or we have identified this change in our project. Then after my logging of change, after as a project manager, when we after we have logged the change request in my document or whatsoever, or we call it a change log actually, and we are going to do the impact analysis, that if we implement this change, what all going to be affected by this change, where all will be the changes that we need to do more, like what all artifacts, what all product documents, what all changes we have to done, maybe your project baselines, or maybe your project management plan is going to be changed by this change request. So we have to analyze everything, the whole impact. For example, that if your customer has given you a checklist, or a checklist to be implemented in a project, suppose for the coding standards, that coding standard checklist doesn't mean that you are going to change only one or two, two screens, the coding style for one or two screens in software development project. But you have to see what is the broader spectrum for this change. You have to see the impacted objects, what all need to be updated by this, what all documents need to be updated by this, what is the impact on schedule, what is the impact on the quality, because you may need to go for the code reviews again, what is the impact on cost. So you have, in that analysis, for a change we have to see how the other project constraints will be affected by this. And after my impact analysis, once we are done with the impact analysis, we are going to present our change request and my impact analysis to the change control board so that they can take the decision. Impact analysis here is going to support the change control board in taking the decision. Now, change control board can either approve or reject the change. Whatsoever scenario is, the change log need to be updated, either is approved or change line, or rejected. If the change is rejected, then update change log, that's it. But if the change is approved, then we have to implement our changes, and maybe in some scenarios we have to update our project baselines as well. Now when we say we have to implement our changes, that is done through our different process of executing process group, that is direct and manage project work. Now in this slide you can see the various sources for change request. You can, as we just talked about, a change can be given by a customer, or some suggestion by a project team member, or some corrective action that you have maybe received from your quality department, or from your from your team member, or from your causal analysis meeting, or any source, or from any source. And those different stakeholders can also propose some changes and defect repair. In this slide we are talking about some examples for change request, that like suppose in your project baselines they are not showing you good numbers. If they are not showing you good numbers in cost variance or schedule variance or different indexes, that means you have to take some action, and those actions are, you as a project manager, you have to take those action as change requests. So for every thing that you are, for every kind of project action that you are going to take against the reviews, against the measurements, that everything is going to be taken as change requests. So all the monitoring and controlling processes may give rise to change requests. And any request for product scope changes, this is a pretty common one that in fact we just talked about it. Generally whenever we talk about change requests, most of the times we take it as a scope change. Any team member stakeholder can suggest any change, or maybe your project government is, or any department of government, any group of government is a stakeholder for your project. So maybe any change in the regulation, any policy change, or anything like suppose you are a project manager for a project which takes care of some environmental issues. In those scenarios, you have to take care of what are the policies or what are the regulations by government. Any change in those regulations or policies, you have to make changes in your project, and these changes are going to be taken as change request. Now, when any change is got approved from either from change control board, or maybe you are the authority. As a project manager is the authority to approve the change, or the team lead is the authority to approve the change. Once a change is approved, it need to be implemented in the project. And what all can be affected by this? Your project management plan may be affected by this. Your project specifications may be affected by this. Your project documents may be affected by this. And through which process you are going to execute these changes into your project is direct and managed project work. This is the project which takes approved change requests as inputs. In fact, there are two other processes, but these changes are implemented through direct and managed project work. Okay, can we take questions now?
We can take questions. Let me try it, and Indu, then you can add whenever you feel that something is required.
Sure.
Okay, so there is a question, and there are two questions which are intending for the same topic. Do we need to do an impact analysis twice, or when do we do an impact analysis? Do we do it before submitting a change request to a change control board, or the change control board does it inside like the impact analysis? Now the answer is that we do, as a project manager, we would be doing impact analysis before we put the change request to a change control board. But the change control board is also a group of individuals. They are experts, and why we are taking this change request to them is that they can add some another dimension to it. So they may end up adding and removing some of the points which we have put into our change request. So we prepare from our side. When I use the word we, as a project manager, we ensure that our impact analysis is good and complete enough. But the change control board, since they look the complete process as an integrated manner, even project manager is also a part of a change control board. So they look the project in an integrated manner and try to identify, is there some other impact area which is not yet identified in the current impact analysis. So it is,
and definitely in fact they can give some input that how good these changes would be for our project. Maybe they are more experienced than the project manager, maybe they have got more expertise than project manager or the project team. So in fact, you know when we talk about integrated change control, this is a part of my knowledge area, integration management. And when we say integration management, that means we are going to manage my project as a cohesive whole. Doesn't mean that we are going to control only one knowledge area. No, it's not like that. When we say any change, anything, so that we are supposed to see the all knowledge areas in as a you can say as a cohesive whole. That okay, from the broader spectrum, that how this change is going to affect my other project constraints. So when we do the first level of impact analysis is that okay, this is the change, and if there is a change in scope, then how this scope change will affect my schedule, my cost, my quality, and my maybe it may add some risk to my project. So this kind of analysis is done at the first level of impact analysis, what we talked about. Now when we say we submit this impact analysis and change request to CCB, they may analyze that okay, if we continue with the same example, if this scope change is adding this risk, so it's better not to take, better not to approve this change request. or if this is affecting, if this change is affecting this much of cost or this much of schedule, that may not be in the approval limits for my project. So they are the ones who analyze the project change request with the provided impact analysis given by the project team or the project manager to see how good this and how feasible this change request can be for my project.
Okay, now then the second question is that who participate in the change control board, and then another related question was that do we have a change control board at an organization level, or do we have it specific for the projects? So in general, it is like when you are dealing with the PMP exam, you need to think that you have a change control board which is specific to your project, because usually your project organization is a big and complex organization, and you need to identify and who are the people who participate in a change control board. The people who can do value add, so who can look beyond the project manager or the team's preview, and who may also be influential. So when you talk about your stakeholder analysis, the people who are more interested and more influential, powerful in your organization, usually they are the part of change control board, who are the person who are approving the money flow. So those kind of individuals will be part of change control board. In a smaller organization or a mid-sized organization, you may have a defined change control board. Like for every project, there are few people who are controlling the complete organization, and they are the one who takes the decision. But from an exam point of view, you need to think like the project is a complex, big enough, and we have a dedicated change control board for each project.
Yes, and in most of the cases, like a project manager is the part of the CCB.
Okay, now there is another question which is coming, and it is like, can a change to be sent to a change control board after the UAT sign-off scope is validated? Now, something like, what is the definition of change? Now, if something is already accepted, change is that we have defined a scope or a way of working, and after that we accepted the outcome of that particular work, and now we are saying that this is not what we we want to get it changed. So in general, the change means, in general, in all normal cases, change will come before scope validation, before scope acceptance. If the scope has been validated, so it's like that we already got money for the work. If you still want to change it, it's kind of a new work and we can re-baseline the project. It's a new scope addition. So in practice, you may get a change which is after validation, after even sign off of a UAT, and you need to take care of them in the same way which you do before a UAT sign off, because you will take them to a change control board, and then the process will get followed. But from an exam point of view, from a simple approach point of view, once you are done with the scope validation, you don't worry about the change anymore, because it is something like you already got the money. So if you got the scope validation, you already got the money for the given work. But yeah, change can come and it will follow the same route.
Yes.
Okay, another question which is coming from Anamika is, she's asking like, do we manage a register or a document to log all the changes? If yes, what is this called? So Indu, you may take it.
Yeah, this we call it change log.
So
change.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Saket.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, change log is the, in fact, PMBOK have given this name, that we change log. Many organizations name it as a change log, but you know, but there can be a different name for it. Is like but when we talk about PMBOK, definitely we talk about change log, and all changes, whatever kind, is it a big change, small change, whatever change it is, it is supposed to be in documented in change log. And in fact, not only only documentation of the change request, in fact the status of the change requests, whether it is got approved or rejected or postponed or whatever it is, it's supposed to be part of the change log. In fact, what action we have. In fact, some organization, make it a pretty broader one, but at least for timing for PMP exam point of view, yes, we have to register all changes in change log and with the status updated with it.
Okay, now only one addition I want to put is that when we talk about changelog, it does not only mean that we are putting the changes which has been accepted. Even the change which got requested but got rejected by the change control board, they also should fall and remain available in a change log. So if you look in a PMBOK exam perspective, like your integrated change control always updates the change log, even for the accepted change request as well as for the rejected change request. So that is how you should visualize the input output along with the practical things. Now there is another question, that is a change control board, is there a possibility that we have an outsider in a change control board? There is a good possibility. Many times customers are part of change control board. And sometime when you are doing an expertise project, you may have a subject matter expert which is not from your organization,
or
domain expert,
right.
A part of your change control board. So it is very much possible.
Yes.
Now there are two questions which are more or less interrelated. One is asking that do we have some change log template which we can share and get a better idea. So we can look into that and put it somewhere in our resource segment. That's like we can put that.
Let me note it down.
Yeah. And another, the same thing in a different way, asked is that do we have some specific information PMBOK recommending that must be requested in a change log document. So in general, the change log document from a PMBOK perspective should have information like what was the source, what was the reason, who raised this change, and what kind of impact was observed and what was the final status.
Yes.
So these kind of fields, these kind of information should be present, but since PMBOK does not prescribe any template for all these documents, so organizations will have their own templates to record the change log.
Yeah, this is that. Yes.
Now another question which is coming, like after scope validation, what happens when the rejected changes in the change log? What happens with the rejected changes in the change log? Does it becomes a part of organization process assets? The change log, all the project documents will part of your historical documents, and historical documents indirectly goes into your organization process assets. Yes. So a change log is also a project document, and when you close your project, it becomes a part of your historical documents, and it is a part of your organization process assets. Somebody doing the similar kind of project can look into the change log and look at the history that these were the rejected and accepted changes and take some learning.
And the reason behind the rejections, and the reason behind rejection. What were the reasons behind rejection of the specific change request at that time? Yeah.
Okay, so these were the questions. I think now Indu, you can take forward. The rest of the questions you keep typing, and we will take in the next Q&A break.
Yeah. So should I continue?
Yeah, please.
Now we are going to talk about change management. Now we are done with good discussion on change requests, but change when we receive any change requests. In every project, we need to have some process that how these change requests or the changes, the proposed changes need to be monitored, controlled, or managed. These processes or what templates we are going to use in in change management for our project, everything is part of my change management system for my project. In most of the companies, they have got some, maybe at the organization level they have some change management system, and it is part of their PMIS, that is project management information system. And change management is not one time activity or one time ask. It's an ongoing project, because you may in a project changes may happen from inception to the final delivery, final acceptance of my deliverables. So it's not a one-time job. It's not that okay, today we have received change, so we are not going to we are not going to receive any changes tomorrow. It's not like that. It's an ongoing process. So now, if in project, if we receive a change today, then what all processes we need to follow to control my changes, to monitor my changes. So everything is part of my change management system for my project. And the change management system for my project or any project is documented in change management plan. Now, project management plan is the main project is a management is a planning document for my project, and there are many subsidiary plans in it. So, and change management plan is one of them, just like other plans like scope management plan, requirement management plan. The change management plan is part of or a subsidiary plan of my project management plan. Now, in fact, we talked about this roles and responsibilities of CCB when we were talking about CCB's change control board also. That what now my change management plan can contain who all will be there in my change control board. What are the roles and responsibility of change control board? And now we in fact we had talked about that even the project manager can have some kind of authority to approve some level of changes. Excuse me. So in my change management plan, we have documented what level of authority of change, what authority of changes a project manager can approve, and what authority of changes a team, even the team lead can approve, and to what authority of changes we are going for my CCB. So okay, so change management plan is documents everything related to all the changes in my project, and it may have information that so like if we are going to have some change management meetings, what is the frequency of these meetings, what is the outcome from these change requests, and everything, what in fact what template we are going to use for change log. Everything will be part of my change management plan. So any questions related to change management, if you can take it right now?
Yeah, and there was one previous question which is again pending. Again, the question is coming, I think from the discussion it is still not clear that where do we do a change impact analysis, inside the CCP or outside the CCP. If you just look for a one answer, it should be done before the CCP come and start looking at it. So it should be done outside the CCP. And change control board ideally should be just giving it a final look or approving or rejecting it. So a change control board is a group of individuals, it's not a meeting. Now change control board may have a periodic meeting to discuss the change request which has been raised during that particular point of duration. So you may have a weekly change control board meeting and looking at all the changes which has been requested. But all the impact analysis should have been done before the request gets submitted to a change control board meeting. So I think that clarifies it. If you have anything on it, then we can take, else we continue. Okay, I think Indu, you can continue.
Okay, I just want to add what you said, Saket.
Yeah.
See, when we say impact analysis, now let's try to figure out that is everyone clear on this point or not? Because see, when we talk about PMP, if we talk about PMP exam point of view, then this point need to be very much clear for everybody. That when this impact analysis is done, so it's like if assume that you are the project manager, right? And you receive from some defect management meeting, and after that some causal to find a causal analysis meeting that okay, or you can say Pareto after doing Pareto analysis, you receive some preventive actions. You find some preventive actions from your project. Now you are going to take those preventive actions as change requests for your project. Now, when you take these as your change request, when you when you take these as change request, you log those. your preventive actions as change request in your change log. And after that, as when you think about a change request, you start doing the impact analysis that, okay, because of my this specific preventive action, suggested preventive actions, what all is going to be impacted. It's not that, okay, if this is the reason for my defect, so if I'm done with this change, that if I do with these, if I complete these preventive actions, if I implement these preventive actions in my project, everything is going to be fine. No, it's not like that. At your level itself, you and your project team will be doing the impact analysis. Okay, that means at that level you are going to see that if we implement these changes, what all is going to impact it. Because even if you are going to propose, you are going to present this change request to your CCB, you have to give some input to them. That on what basis, on what analysis, on what information they are going to take a decisions. Definitely they are going to do some analysis also on their level, but they need some data for this analysis. So, on the first level of impact analysis, you are going to see what all other project constraints are going to impact by this. If I am going to implement these changes, these preventive actions, how my schedule will be getting affected. There may be you may be add some other risk, maybe it's a minor one, but still there may be some other risk you may add in a project by implementing these preventive actions. So you have to do this impact analysis at a broader level. Then you present these impact analysis along with your change request to your CCB. Now they will analyze that, okay, these are the impacted area because of the specific change request. Then should we go for it, or can we do without it, or we are better without doing it? So if we don't have the impact analysis before we present our change request to CCB, how they are going to take the decision for approval or rejection. So that way we can say that if we can remember this way, that before we present our change request to CCB, we have to do our first level of impact analysis.
There are few more which has come during this particular discussion, and something which are related again. Now, does the CCP also consider schedule cost dependency because of a different project running at the same time? Does the CCP get involved in such conflict of resources by different projects? Now, that is the real value the CCP will put in. Now, when we are talking about impact analysis, like project manager is doing all the required impact analysis, the team is doing all the required amount of impact analysis before they present it to a CCP. But CCP should have a better overview of your portfolio, of your program, of other dependency or a cost limitation which organization may have, and that is why they exist, and that is why their value or their level of assessment is needed.
Right.
Okay, now the another question which is kind of an interesting is that what kind of activities PM need to carry out to make sure to bring only the certain changes request to a CCP review. So the question is, like, I guess there should be some control at PM project team level. Now, true, and what is that control? What are those limits? What all changes a project manager can approve without taking it to a change control board? What kind of changes a project team level person, a team level person can decide? Going forward, in all management approach, the organizations are trying to give empowerment to the front team. So there should be an empowerment to the front team. There should be an empowerment to a project manager to a certain extent. Now, as per your project, as per your market, as per your organization culture, you define these things in your change management plan, which is again a part of a project management plan. So in your project management plan, in your change management plan, you explains that where, at what level, in which cases CCP gets involved. So this is where we talk about. So PM, in general, now this becomes quite tricky when you are handling the exam questions, because you may not get that information, the background information given in that particular question. So in general, assume safe that if the answer is giving you an option where you can take a change request to a change control board, and by the situation it is not clear that there is a defined limit and the project manager is authorized to take a call on that particular defined limit, you play safe and you take it to a change control board. But in practice,
Change control board,
in
right.
totality, it is dependent upon what we have documented in our change management plan, which again a part of a project management plan.
Yeah, we can explain it like that. Like there are certain changes which are not impacting the cost of the project, or not impacting the schedule more than 1-2 days. Those kind of changes maybe it may be defined in the change management plan that if the change is not impacting the cost, you may not take those changes to change control board. The project manager can take the decision to approve it or reject it.
True. And there was another question that communication of a change is the responsibility of a project manager or the change control board. So change control board is an advisory board. If you are talking about PM, PM is responsible for doing everything. So when you talk about accountability, project manager has to ensure that changes or there is a clear and transparent communication throughout the project life cycle. Now he may have a designated people who are responsible for shooting all those changes status report at the end of the week, at the end of the quarter or a month. The execution can be delivered to someone or can be delegated to someone, but overall accountability, it remains with the project manager.
It's with
100%.
Project manager. Yes.
Okay, so we move forward and you keep typing your questions. We will take it after a few more slides. Yeah, Indu, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So now we'll talk about configuration management. So configuration management, what we understand by configuration management is like it's a version control system, or but it's not only version control. See, when we say configuration management, we need to understand that what is the meaning of configure. Like we do have software in my project which has got some specification. We do have a product in my project and the different documents. So through configuration management, we have to see, and how this is related to change management, we will talk about that also. That now through configuration management, we have to see that if any change is implemented in my project, that change should be implemented, should be reflected in all the relevant or the correct versions of my project artifacts or documents or product specifications. Now, how this is important in my integration change control is because if we don't have a good configuration management in my project, we may end up with quite a good number of errors. That means if after approval of a change request, if we have to implement that change following our change management plan, we have to identify the correct artifacts, the correct documents, the correct product products features or specification, what all are going to be impacted, and through configuration management we can see that what is the correct version that need to be updated. So this is the picture of my configuration management in my integrated change control. It is also, the configuration management is also part of my project management information system, and many of the companies use certain tools for configuration management, and they are given as project management information system to the projects. Now, the whole process, the templates and tools and everything is documented in my configuration management plan for configuration management, for my project's configuration management. And the configuration management plan contains that what all is configurable in my project. It may be the software, it may be the documents, it may be even the hardware. It may be anything that is used in my project can be configurable. And it defines the controlling changes to the configuring items, the configuration management plan. So now, in fact, in configuration management, when we talk about projects configuration management, we actually identify what all the configurable items are in my project. Then we, in fact, we do the configuration audits also. that what all is supposed to be done for the proper configuration management, is it done or not? That is a part of configuration audits. Then we have status accounting for my configurations, configuration items. That are the appropriate versions are getting updated, or are they, the correct information is going to the correct documents or the correct project artifacts. So when we talk about the differences in configuration change management, configuration management is primarily a version control system, and again I'll emphasize on the relevance of this is that the changes are implemented to the correct project artifacts or the correct product specifications or the correct project, you can say, documents. And change control is basically change control is related to the identify and document the whole change control process in my project, and how the project baselines can be updated by using by this change control, and who will be the CCV and all. And configuration item is basically what that means the correct versions or the correct documents or the correct artifacts are getting affected by my specific change. Now, can we take questions?
We can take. So as of now, I have one question, which is coming like project management information system. So the question is, PMIS is part of enterprise environmental factors or enterprise environmental. Why not organization process asset? Even when it aids in a configuration management, why is this? Now, a lot of time, few of the enterprise environmental factor and organization process assets may look overlapping, and sometimes we get confused that why it is falling under enterprise environmental factor. Now, what I remind myself whenever I end up in such kind of confusion, there is a 7S framework. So McKinsey talks about 7S, and this 7S represents the enterprise. And this 7S has hard elements and soft elements. Hard elements which are very much visible, like structure, strategy, system. And then there are a soft element which is like shared values, skills, styles, and staff. So since it's a system, so it's an organization environmental factor. This is what the organization is built around. So all systems will fall under that. Now when you are storing, retrieving your historical data, when you are learning even organization process assets, they would be falling and stored somewhere in the system only. But the content is something which is coming from the organization process asset, and the system usually falls under enterprise environmental factor. So sometimes it becomes a very thin line, so we don't have to worry that much about it. But in general, something which is environmental, which exists, which does not give direct value, you don't read something which is not built from the previous project or from the previous experience, that is an enterprise environmental factor. Though indirectly enterprise environmental factor also, for example, skills also keep built year and on. So if you learn something, it goes into an enterprise environmental factor. If your team member acquires a new tool, a skill in handling a new type of technology, you update enterprise environmental factor, not organization processes, because now this person is more capable of doing things and the skill dimension of the organization is getting updated. So that is how we can visualize, and I usually use the 7S framework whenever I get confused about any particular thing related to enterprise environmental factor or an organization process asset. No question further. I think we can take, and then we can finally see if we have more queries.
Okay, this is the actually for this integrated change control. This was the last section we had, the configuration management.
Okay, there are few things I want to point out, as even in the slides it was also there. So there were a mention of like what all do we do in configuration management. From an exam point of view, do remember that these 3 steps which we do in configuration management, which is configuration identification, configuration status accounting, and configuration verification and audit. So do understand what is configuration audit, because configuration audit is a process of verifying that are we maintaining the configuration management plan, like are we executing our work as per the configuration management plan. What is a configuration management plan? It talks about that you need to follow a certain versioning system. Before you update a document, you need to prepare a change log or a change history in that particular document. So these all are configuration management guidelines. And by doing an audit, we ensure that yes, these guidelines has been followed in a project. So do remember this term. A lot of time I see questions coming on it and people getting confused about what is this configuration audit. Rest we can just finish the slides, let other things for the questions, and then we take it finally. Okay, I have few queries, Indu. Hello.
Okay.
Yeah, let me now many, I guess. So I need to just focus. Let me since I raised this three-step process. So configuration accounting. So configuration identification is something that we do that which all the items are configurable, which all items has to be managed and controlled. That is a configuration identification. And configuration accounting is that execution of that. So like taking care of that this is the latest version. So configuration accounting helps us in identifying if I want to extract the latest project management plan. So configuration accounting is a step where it tells that the latest project management plan is version XXXX and you pick it. So that is what the configuration accounting is all about. Indu, if you want to add something?
No.
Okay, let me take the next one because we also have a limited time. Sometime we need to prepare across the organization because the change happens after project implemented. Then who will coordinate, manage the change happening outside the organization, outside the project? It's a good question, and we should also be very clear about the change management. Change management is a big topic, and it is many times is beyond project. Now, when I say that it is beyond project, it means, for example, that you have implemented an ERP system, and now this ERP system needs to be the resources has to be trained on it, and you need to overcome the resistance which is natural coming from the people because they have been using something which was giving more flexibility, but the new ERP is binding their hands. Now, in general, this is a separate project. There are projects for change management. Even I have managed one project where I was a change agent. So I also worked as a change agent, and where our goal was to interact with users and make them comfortable, provide them necessary training to use the new system. So we were like evangelizing the new particular system, and it was like nothing to do with the deliverable. So deliverable is already there. Now implementing or making that output usable was another project. So it usually goes outside the previous project, but change management or bringing a change could be another project where your goal or a vision or a sponsor is only to implement that particular change. So
it may end up in a new project itself.
Yeah,
we have to make the change may create. We may end up creating a new project charter for a change, and we start taking as a new project itself.
Yeah, and then there is another question which is again kind of a follow-up, that what extent PM is responsible for organization level changes because of this project. So in general, again the same thing when I talk about an ERP project. So if you are a project manager who has a responsibility of configuring the ERP system as per the customer need, so that's a one stage. Then as a software consumer, as a customer, I'm a manufacturing company, I have a goal to utilize the functionality of this particular ERP and get the business case which I have, get the business value which I have thought about before I gave this particular order. And if you are a project manager of the first phase, where your responsibility is implement the project as per customer expectation, then it usually depend upon the charter. What happens, like in most of the cases, for this particular example, usually these are two separate projects and led by separate individuals, where usually the bringing, providing the end user trainings are kept outside, but it is a usual case. There could be a project where this can also become a part of your project charter. This can also, so it all depends like what charter is authorizing you or what charter is expecting from you. In general, the implementation which I have seen, majority of the time the end user rollout are done by the separate team usually, but it is not necessary. So it is not necessary that it will always be like that. So it all depends what is your charter, what is your scope of project. But if you take a simple example, especially when you are dealing with exam and all, so you can fairly assume that charter will give you the boundaries, and once you validate your scope, you are done with it. Even if the business value is getting work is with someone else. So I think this satisfies the query. So do let me know. We still have 2-3 minutes. If you have subsequent questions, just type it across. I would try my best to share my experience as well as PMP perspective on those. Okay, I think you can go ahead, Indu. In case we have queries, we can take it at the end. You just finish the slides. I think you are talking about some upcoming events and all. Yeah.
Yes. Now we do have some free PMP resources that are available on our Eisenbridge site. So anybody can go and download it from there. One of it is ITTO that have all the inputs, outputs for different processes, for all the 4 different processes, tools and tactics. In fact it's a very good tool when somebody is preparing for PMP exam, to see the flow that okay, if this specific, like for example, even if you take example of the same thing, if you talk about the approved change request, so what all processes take approved change request as input, and from what all processes goes out as output. It's a good tool. You can go, you can go and download it from there. I can use it for your PMP exams. Then we do have some PMP math flashcards. You can download it as well. It's a good compilation of all the mathematics exam formulas that you can use to, preparation for your PMP exam mathematics questions. The link is also given. It's eisenbridge.com PMP resources. You can go and find it out there. Then there are certain PMP events. On 7th of December, we will be having a free session on project management in New Delhi. So whosoever stays in NCR or in Delhi can come and join us over there. And there are certain PMP trainings which are going to happen as the dates given.
And all the details can be found on the website.
Yes, eisenbridge.com and .com events.
So we are primarily doing in NCR. As of now, we are working with a partner for Pune, and we are working in Baroda. So we have just started the Gujarat, and this is the face-to-face thing. And we have a good online content which is like you can consume it from anywhere, and many of you are already our students, so I don't know how to market it further. So just
no, but Saket, I hope they do know about the YouTube videos.
Yeah, we do have a YouTube channel. So in case you have and our YouTube channel is hosting good amount of presentations on project management, even if the agile project management. Some of our online contents are available in the form of YouTube videos on our YouTube channel. So thanks friends, and you can remain connected with us. Email ID is here. We have a YouTube channel. We also have a LinkedIn group which talks about like PMP certification made easy. So do hook in to any of our channel, and nowadays we have also started using our mailing list extensively. So if you have not subscribed yourself to our email mailing list, do that, because many of our events are getting communicated through our mailing list going forward. because it's becoming difficult to communicate at various channels. So we are trying to consolidate it on our mailing list. So be part of it and remain connected. So thanks for joining in, and see you sometime soon.
Bye-bye.